guys, welcome to a RodzSquad Retro Reviews. We're going to be doing something interesting today because everybody has been giving this thing a lot of hate. This is the PlayStation Classic. It came out December 3rd. Could be wrong on that, but I doubt it. So December 3rd, the PlayStation Classic came out. Between the first 2 weeks it dropped, I've noticed the price down. The price has been going down because a lot of people are saying the emulation is bad. The games sometimes don't run well. Like, I'll show you guys in a little bit. Like Tekken 3, it runs like pretty bad. But I like the fact that this comes with HDMI, unlike some of the other stuff we reviewed. But it's been getting a lot of trashed on. But how can it be trashed if it's PlayStation? You know what I mean? Sony usually has a great track record with games. Obviously, this was made to make money off of the SNES Classic, NES Classic, all of that. So we're going to take a quick look at what we're dealing with here. It comes with the original PlayStation controllers, which I like a little bit. The only thing that makes me, gets me annoyed is I'm used to playing some games with analog stick, like Metal Gear Solid. I'm used to playing with analog stick. Like, using this was kind of tough when you're playing Metal Gear, because if you're not used to it, it's different. So we're going to look at the interface real quick, show you what we're dealing with. If you ask me, Sony kind of cheaped out on the interface on this because they got lazy. It looks like when you connect the memory card to the original PlayStation, it looks like the interface of the memory card. The only issue is it's just very bland, it's boring looking. It looks like it was thrown together because all the games are just floating up instead of like in individual files. Like, I want to just mention Rayman real quick because I think Rayman runs the best on this system compared to everything else. Like, it just looks good. It looks, great compared to all the other games in the HDMI. I think that's because it's 2D. Everything else runs, it's 3D polygons. Like, quickly, I'll show you guys what I mean about when I said Tekken runs pretty bad on this. It's not great. Hold on, give me a second. Press the wrong one there. I had saved it prior to this. But Tekken, like, the cutscenes all look great because it's running for full motion video. But when you see the gameplay, you can notice it instantly. And that's because it's running on PAL system instead of American ROMs. It's running on a PAL format, which I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. So I'm going to turn this down a little bit. It's a little loud. So just watch what I mean with this slowdown. If you guys remember Virtua Fighter 2, when you fight the wall underwater, it's similar to that. Like, you can see it's a little slow. It takes, like, the first fight you do is always going to be awkward. It's just a little weird, man. But some of the games run smooth. Like Metal Gear Solid runs great. Like, I ran that a little bit. I haven't tested all of them. But Resident Evil, you can notice when you play Resident Evil, there's a little bit of
delay.
Like, if you're running, it doesn't look as smooth as it should. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but usually if you play the original Resident Evil, it's like slow. It just feels awkward to control. Of course, having Resident Evil in this is great, but it doesn't feel right. Like, you can see while she's running, it looks like there's some frames missing, or there's a little bit of slowdown, which I can't explain it. But if you play the original runs smooth on a PlayStation console, and the choices of some of these games make no sense. Like Persona, of course I know what Persona is, but it wasn't a big PlayStation classic. It's not something nobody would know. Like, they got Persona, like Ridge Racer, of course. They got Super Puzzle Fighter instead of a Street Fighter game, which you ask me, it's kind of weird. Then they have games like Rainbow Six, which doesn't look as good as I remember it did. They have Twisted Metal 1, which without an analog plays awkward. Then they have Wild Arms, which I've never personally heard of. They got games like Battle Arena Shinden, which I hate this game. It sucks. In my opinion, it's horrible. But if you look at it, it's one of the first 3D fighters, so that's fine. It can look like that. But it plays like crap on this. And I can't explain it. It could just be me. Maybe I just suck. But it just looks like crap. It plays like crap. I can't explain it. It looks slow. It's got that weird, like, jumping air thing. It's just awkward. some of the ROMs aren't great. Like they run pretty bad.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
As far as the original look and feel of the PlayStation controller, is it responsive?
It's responsive, but if you haven't used this thing in a very long time, and you're used to having an analog stick, like I said with Metal Gear Solid, it was kind of tough for me to get aims and shooting because I had to use the D-pad. Usually I'm used to using the analog. So the controller works. That's the plus side. The controller's functional. But going back to like some of the games that they have in this, like what the hell's Cold Borders 2? Why would you put this in here?
Yeah,
it's a snowboarding game. And they have like Destruction Derby and Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
intelligence. Like what are these?
Whoever selected the actual games that should have been added to this console, really, obviously, either we're not thinking too well into it, or maybe it was copyright issues. Because there's quite a few games that are not here, and obviously we have to mention Crash Bandicoot. I mean, in the 90s when the PlayStation was released, every commercial you had a guy dressed up as Crash Bandicoot in everything.
And for some reason he's not here.
There's no, and I don't know if it was maybe maybe it was a copyright issue, but it's sad if that's the case, because again, that was the mascot and what everyone knew was associated with PlayStation.
The system in October, and they announced it with 4 games, and then December they were like, "Oh, these are the rest of the games." It felt like the rest of the games were just throwaways. Like they just threw them in there just so people could buy the system. For basically, you're getting this for Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid. You can even throw Oddworld in there, Rayman, Resident Evil, and Tekken. Everything else,
just a waste of time.
No-name games. The only plus side to this is this thing is easily hackable.
Okay.
So all you really have to do is get yourself a flash drive with ROMs on it, put it in, you're set.
Now, do you have to? Is there a firmware that you have to update the
I'm not
console?
sure about the firmware.
We'd have to look into that.
But I'm pretty certain that if you connect it, it'll just run the ROMs. Because it's just running on PSX, which is a computer PlayStation emulator, which is what this thing is running on. So that's another cheap thing on Sony's behalf, because when the NES Classic came out and the Super Nintendo Classic came out, Nintendo made their own ROM thing. They made their own emulators. Sony didn't do that. Sony cheaped out and just bought an emulator from the internet. For you guys to get American ROMs, because remember I mentioned before they're all running on PAL format. For you to get American ROMs, you have to get yourself a keyboard. Not all of them work. It has to be a USB keyboard. The only ones I know that work are Revoltech and a Cade 970, I believe. I could be wrong. But those two work, and you have to hit the escape button, and from there you go through the thing, you hit the ROMs, and you switch it over to American, and you put 60 frames per second. But because it's not easily accessible, do you really want to spend more money on a keyboard just to make this thing run better? When you could probably get, let's say you want to play Tekken 7, Tekken 3. You could probably get a disc of Tekken 3 for $5.
I agree.
So this thing was originally priced at $100. If you ask me, it's not worth $100. It seems kind of a rip-off to me because it doesn't run well. $60, fine. It's a little something. You get something to play. If you don't have the games accessible to you, but it's fine. But my thing is, I looked up all the prices of the games. Everything in this game, plus the PlayStation console, comes up to $120.
No.
This thing is $20 less than owning the actual discs and the console itself.
I got you. So you pretty much feel, I feel as if it was just rushed.
It's rushed, and I don't think they put enough care into it. Like I said before, it's good for a $60 price. If you want to just pick up and play some PlayStation games without worrying, it's good for a $60 price. But for them pricing it at $100 and putting a bunch of bullcrap in here that nobody cares about, it's not a good idea.
So it's a bomb.
It's a bomb. It failed miserably. Because basically, to my knowledge, or to my opinion, the only games that you're really going to play on this, Tekken, maybe Siphon Filter, Resident Evil, Rayman, Metal Gear Solid, and Final Fantasy.
Gotcha. Well, I agree
Sony,
with you.
You guys did a pretty good, you probably bombed there. So, when are we going to get that backwards compatibility?
There you go. So, all right. So overall, your final thoughts on the?
I give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Really, that's pretty high.
it has, like, it can be something good if you mess with it. The only problem is you have to put the effort in to mess with it yourself.
I got you. Okay, well, there you got it from Jay Rods. His thoughts on the PS Classic. Buy at your own.
Buy at your own discretion. Because if you just want to pick up and play something, it's fine. But if you want the actual thing, this is not the actual thing.
Even though it comes from Sony.
Even if it comes from Sony. Sony, they just
Rushed it.
oh, Nintendo made one. Let's make one too.
All right, well, there you go. From Jay Rods, he gives it a 6.5. Again, everyone, thanks for the support. As always, keep it retro. And again, buy at your own discretion.
Buy at your own discretion, guys.
See you later.
Be careful.